everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day, and today guys we're going to be going over a brand new build for Remnant 2 that I like to call the Erupting Sands. About 3 days ago, Remnant 2 had another patch slash hotfix which brought loads of very solid changes to a lot of items inside the game. But there was one change, one teeny tiny little change in the patch notes that definitely stood out to me and probably a lot of other people, and that is the change to the Invoker skill, Way of Lydusa. It now lets you proc Sand Devils on status effect damage and skill damage. Skill damage, there needs to be something said about that, and we'll get to it when I, talk about what we're actually taking for this build. But the fact that you can proc friggin' Sand Devils on status effect damage is insane now. That means Way of Lydusa is going to start synergizing even more with Ritualist, like it wasn't already synergizing like crazy already. So now we start generating a mass amount of Sand Devils, more than ever before. We can literally open up our own factory at this point. We got that much Sand Devil coming out of our ass, which just means we can stagger the bosses into friggin' comas and just absolutely delete them. Of course, yes, we are using Invoker and Ritualist to try and get the most out of Eruption and Way of Lydusa. This will be a skill spamming build. That's all we need to do to absolutely nuke the bosses. Just delete them, get them out of here. So I suppose if you ask me what's one of the really good things about this build, well, that's one of them. We just absolutely nuke everything. We have some insane damage with this setup because of the new change to Way of Lydusa. Like, it's already a strong skill, but now we can generate a hell of a lot more Sand Devils and we can actually use it consistently. There's a flow to this build, and when you get it down, yeah, it feels very satisfying to actually just nuke everything with Way of Lydusa. And of course, because we're using Invoker, I think it goes hand in hand that we have some really good skill duration, and because of some of the items we're taking, we have fantastic skill cooldown, which just means we can use Way of Lydusa and Eruption even more, and the Invoker's Prime perk, gives us more skill cooldown as well. Lovely. Now for mod generation, we do actually have pretty decent mod generation. Not that we're trying to mod spam. We are using mods that have long durations, and we can further increase that duration just so they can stay out for as long as possible, so we don't have to worry about them. Just fire, shoot, forget. Happy days. The main thing we are trying to do is skill spam as much as possible, but while you do have Way of Lydusa up, you do actually have really good mod generation. You can get a hell of a lot of sandstorms out with the monolith. And overall, the main thing, this build is just so much fun to play. I really had a lot of fun putting this build together, and it's not just because it deletes bosses quickly, okay? It is fun to play. So now moving on over to the gear and the traits. Enough of the intro mumbo jumbo. Now for the skills we are taking, I think I've said it 50 times already, but obviously Way of Lydusa and Eruption. Now the one thing I want to talk about is Way of Lydusa has been changed. I wish they would update it on the actual skill card. It doesn't say that it does work with status effect damage and also skill damage. But there's a bit of a weird thing. They did state in the patch notes that it should be working with skill damage. Doesn't feel like it is. You use Miasma, that is status effects, but it isn't a skill. So Miasma actually doesn't proc any Sand Devils at all, especially on the dummies. I mean, out in Exploration it might be different. I've only tested this stuff on the dummies. The Challenger War Stomp skill doesn't give you Sand Devils, and also the Gunslinger Revolver skill does not generate any Sand Devils. So not sure if skill damage is actually working at all. Maybe just the dummies don't work. I'm not 100% sure, but Eruption does, but it doesn't work in the way you think it does. So it'd be better if I just showed you this quickly so you can kind of understand how this build works and why it seems to just be nuking bosses really quickly. So if I use Way of Lydusa and we use Eruption, it's going to generate no Sand Devils. I'm getting no Sand Devils whatsoever. There's none. I'm getting none, okay? So if I reset this, if we now apply the status effect, okay, that didn't apply the status effect. If we apply status effect, there we go, there's a bleed. Apply this, we'll use Eruption. Now we'll use Way of Lydusa. See, Eruption still isn't doing anything, but if you get some generating, now it does. I don't know what is happening here. So it works and then it doesn't work, but you have to have something dealing damage for the skills to work. So I obviously don't know what's going on there. It's really fickly how Way of Lydusa is actually working with skills and status effect damage and all that kind of stuff. But the way this build actually works, so if we go ahead and just dump our mods, get all the status effect out there, we'll apply bleed, refresh it, now use Way of Lydusa. Look how many Sand Devils we're actually getting from Eruption. We're able to use this twice, and we're getting like that many like Sand Devils generated. Mind you, we are AoEing a lot of enemies here, but this works single target as well. And I don't know what's going on here. It seems that you need damage to be applied, before it can give you Sand Devils through skills. I'm not sure what exactly is happening here, but as you can see, I am using 2 Way of Lydusas, 1 Eruption, 2 Way of Lydusas, 1 Eruption, 2 Way of Lydusas, 1 Eruption, and that's kind of like the flow of the build. It took me a while to get used to this, but when I realized that you could dump 2 full charges of Way of Lydusa before using another Eruption, yeah, that's how you can get this crazy like damage loot happening with your skills. So, but you can definitely see there's some weird interactions happening there. Not sure if Way of Lydusa is working how it is intended to be working with status effect damage and skill damage. Definitely doesn't seem like it. Again, to show you the exact same thing with miasma. If you put miasma down, nothing's happening. If I start doing damage, now, see, now it starts generating Sand Devils. Either way, when you do use an Eruption, I think the reason we're getting so many Sand Devils is one, it might be applying the skill damage, but we're refreshing those status effects. So because we're refreshing the status effects, I think it re-applies status effects, which might give us more Sand Devils that way. I don't know what the hell is going on, but that's kind of what I found with the new update with the Way of Lydusa. Again, remember, I'm not the smartest person on the internet, so my little smooth brain might be interpreting this information incorrectly, but I thought I'd just like to show those findings with you guys, just to show that it is a little bit weird with skills. With everything else, it's fine. Like status effect damage normally on its own, I think works, unless maybe you have to apply range damage to get it started. Again, I don't know. For the armor that I am wearing, I've got the Dandy Topper, Zealot's Overcoat, Leto Mark II leggings, and also the Fey Royal Van Braces. For the relic, I've gone with the Runed Heart. You feel free to put whatever you want. Again, I've just put this on just trying to get our mods back a little bit quicker, so when we're going from mob to mob, we have our mods ready available, so we can just do the most amount of damage possible. For the upgrades, I have gone skill cooldown, modern skill cast speed, and also an increase to skill damage. And because we are taking so much skill cooldown, like I said, Way of Lydusa is on a 42-second cooldown, and Eruption is on 14 seconds. If you don't care about damage and you just want your skills to come back as quickly as possible and you want to have a really funny build, you can put Black Pawn Stamp, which is going to make 10 seconds on Eruption and also 30 seconds of Way of Lydusa, so you can stay on Way of Lydusa almost indefinitely. Now moving on over to the weapon, I know before everyone freaks out and starts ripping their hair out and molding, yes, I am using the most meta weapons possible, Monolith and Nebula, because I wanted to see how much damage we could actually do with this build, and these are the 2 weapons that you're going to want to use if you want to try and get the most damage possible out of your build. They're S-tier fucking weapons, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So for the Monolith, the main reason we want the Monolith is to shoot the Sandstorm out, which lasts for 20 seconds. This mod did recently receive a change. It now gets affected by mod duration effects. So before it didn't, now it does. So this beefy Sandstorm lasts for 20 seconds. Before, I think it only lasted for 10. I actually can't remember now. I've got Twisted Wounds here. This is so we can apply a bleed status effect. We don't have all 5 negative status effects, but we do have 4 now that slow does count as a negative status effect. Really love that change. So we are using bleed just so we can actually shoot the primary fire at targets just to apply that status effect and expose, and then hit them with Eruption and you just go nuke them. We've got the Krell Axe. The Krell Axe, it's just here so we can apply shock, and also I've got Misfortune Mutator here, which allows us to apply slow. Now, because they did recently make slow a negative status effect, I don't think it's updated properly on the actual like item card thing here. But slow now does get affected by status effect duration. I was testing this out and noticed that slow definitely lasts for 6 seconds when you have fully maxed out affliction trait. And Eruption will refresh slow. So Krellax gets pretty strong now, especially when you just throw it at all the big elite. They're slow and you just keep hitting them with Eruption. And they can't really do anything. They're just slowed indefinitely now. So I love the fact that slow is a negative status effect, and Misfortune is a very good mutator for this build. And of course, we have Nebula. We all know what this does. Fire out the nano swarms. It's going to apply the corrosive status effect. You're going to do more damage, and they just nuke everything. So yeah, Nebula, very strong. I've got the feedback mutator on here. You could really put whatever you want, maybe go for more mod damage. I just put this here just to try and get the nano swarms back a little bit quicker, since we're not really taking a lot of mod generation. Now moving on over to the amulets and the rings, we do have Legacy Protocol. This is going to increase our skill duration by 15% and reduce our skill cooldown by 20%. This is massive for Way of Lydusa, given that it has such a big cooldown, and we've reduced it all the way down to 42 seconds. Like if I just unequip this, boom, 66 seconds. So we're shaving off 24 seconds with this amulet. So I've got Burden of Destroyer, 15% increased damage. Got Burden of the Rebel, which is going to reduce our relic use speed, which you don't really care about. We're going to get increased relic use speed with Way of Lydusa anyway, but it's going to reduce our skill cooldown by 15%. This is huge. This is again going to make Eruption and Way of Lydusa have a much smaller cooldown, so we can spam them even more. I went with Burden of the Gambler. I just realized I got all 3 burden rings here. That's kind of interesting. So we might not be hitting weak spots, but we can hit crit. So it is nice to increase our crit chance by 10% and also crit damage by 15%. And then because we are applying Expose, I feel like Token of Favor is kind of like a no-brainer here, because we're just going to get 5% increase to all damage and 10% more critical strike chance to any target afflicted with Expose, which is pretty much any enemy stuck inside a Sandstorm, which is going to be all the time. Now moving on over to the trait cards, guys. I have maxed out Flashcaster, I have maxed out Fortify, I've maxed out Vigor, I've put 3 points into Strong Back, let us wear what we are wearing. I've got 7 points into Endurance. Now I have maxed out Spirit because we're not taking Stoda Malevolence. Maxing out Expertise, we want as much skill cooldown as possible. Maxing out Amplitude. Amplitude does affect Way of Lydusa and also Eruption, which is very strong. Maxing out Chakra because we want our mods to stay out for as long as possible. That's how Sandstorm and the Nano Swarm can stay out for 20 seconds. Absolutely absurd. And then also maxing out Siphoner because it's going to help with our survivability. And that's it for the build video, guys. Hopefully this build does help you out. Sorry if this video is a little bit longer than usual. I'm not sure how long this is. It just felt like it was a long video because I was explaining a hell of a lot more. But either way, this build is disgusting. I'm not sure if Way of Lydusa is going to continue to interact with status effect and skills like it does, because Way of Lydusa staggers the crap out of bosses, man. Like, you would have saw Primo in one of the clips, he gets dropped down, he can't do anything. The big Fey Knight guy that you fight in the new Lasom DLC, he can't do anything. You knock him out of his one-shot attack, and when he tries to run away, you knock him out of it and he comes back. So Way of Lydusa is absolutely insane now. The recent changes to it has made it a very strong skill. The fact that it works with a lot of different damage types to prop those Sand Devils. Even though it's not working properly, it's going to be very interesting to see what other builds can be made if this interaction does stay in the game. They did say they want to see how it all works, even though it doesn't look like it's working properly. It is going to be interesting to see what the dev's decision on this new Way of Lydusa change actually is. Appreciate all love and support as always, guys, and until next time, stay safe, peace out.